Good afternoon, friends. During this COVID-19, please take care of yourself, your family, elderly ones, and I'm sure time is the best healer. I have been asked to talk on the medical legal issues in general practice. At the outset, a very big thanks and to the organizers and to all those who are online here, respected seniors and colleagues. I am presuming that the attendees are all the general practitioners, probably of all the pathies. So accordingly, slides are set. Some of them may be having nursing homes too. So slides are also for them. So there may be little bit overlap between the pathies, but then all pathies are attending as I have been informed, as well as there may be some consulting physician. So accordingly, the slides are there. Probably the number of slides may be more. I will try to cover in that given time. Hippocrates said, cure sometimes, treat often, comfort always. Ability of a doctor to provide comfort through his words and presence is a fundamental component of a good medical care. So be human and not robot. This is a basic fundamental Latin maxim in books of law, which says ignorance of the law is not the excuse. That means one cannot say, I was not knowing this law, therefore I should be excused. That it means that way. One anonymous doctor said, when I joined MBBS, I thought of saving many lives, but now I think of saving only one life. That is my life. Once upon a time, clinic as a temple, doctor as a deity. Now it's era of consumerism, and therefore lots of thought process, lot of questions in the mind of the doctor, and possible consequences while doing practice comes to the mind. Be that at police station, courts, consumer forum, and councils. And to add that list, it's also National Human Rights Commission. What made this impact on doctor-patient relationship? The faith which was there is totally replaced by contract. There are too many laws. Each one cannot know all the laws. As medicine is vast, laws are also vast. Probably we can classify laws in two types. Statutory laws, the laws which are passed in parliament or state assembly, which are known as statutory laws. And the other is the judgmental laws. While practicing, if any issue happens and it goes to the court of law, whatever the judgment is given by the court is known as the judgmental law. So these are the two types of law. As well, law syllabus doesn't cover all issues. As well, the laws made doesn't provide solution to all issues. Hence, many issues requires a logical, justified, and appropriate clinical-based reasoning unless and until we have judgmental law when such issue reaches the Supreme Court for the verdict. Many case laws are there which has changed the practice totally. What we used to practice 20-25 years back, probably that will not work in this time. So because the faith has been replaced by contract, one has to change with time, and therefore one cannot say what I was doing 20 years back will be true for now. This faith has been replaced by contract. One has to change with time. Mishaps are the part and parcel for practice. We have to accept it and face it. But then we should learn and mentally prepared. Following are the case laws which has changed the practice. This is the IMA versus VP Shantan, which brought medical profession in the ambit of consumer. We'll not go in the detail, but this case law brought medical profession in the ambit of consumer. This is another case law, which is Parvanam Katra versus Union, which says right of the patient to get treated in a state of emergency. So this case law states in any emergency, patient has the right to get treated. So that means doctor has no right to choose the patient in an emergency state, but in non-emergency state, doctor can choose his patient. So any emergency comes, doctor cannot refuse. But right to choose a patient, doctor has, as per regulation 2.4 ethics 2002, which says right to choose because treatment is contract. So cannot be forced. So we have the right to refuse at the outset, not in between. At the outset, we can refuse, but that only in non-emergency state. In emergency state, as per Parman Katra law, we cannot refuse. We have to see the emergency with whatever ability, capacity, limitation, infrastructure we are having. We should see the patient, whatever ability we are having, to stabilize the patient and refer appropriately in appropriate way with appropriate person. Once I will cover these 2 or 3 things in here only. Once duty care arises, it is to be continued till the patient gets relieved, discharged, transferred, voluntary seeks discharge, or goes DAMA, or doctor terminates on valid grounds giving proper notice, or that the patient dead. On emergency, the emergency ceases to exist. Valid reasons to terminate duty of care: failure to pay, failure to show up for appointments, refusal of patient to give consent for procedure which is absolutely necessary or life-saving, refusal to allow treatment plan, refusal to follow instructions, and if doctor has left the practice. Already said, duty of care during emergency. This case law states every doctor, whether at government hospital or otherwise, has a professional obligation to extend his services with due expertise for protecting life, the obligation being total, absolute, and paramount. This is another case law which states here dead body cannot be withheld against the pending bill. This is an interesting story of this. First, then the issue happened, went to the Tamil Nadu State Commission, where the decision was in favor of doctor, because Tamil Nadu State Commission stated, as it is a contract, doctor being the service provider, patient being the consumer, doctor has given all his services, it's duty of the patient to pay the bill, rather relatives to pay the bill. If they are not paying, doctor has the right to withhold the dead body. But after some few years, when similar case went to the Mumbai High Court, in that case, there was judgment which was given, you cannot withhold the dead body against the pending bill. Any judgment comes with reasoning. Without reasoning, there is no judgment. 3 wrongs were identified: legal wrong, ethical wrong, moral wrong. Legally, you are right to say that, yes, we should withhold the body, but ethically and morally, it doesn't favor that decision. So as well, there is a alternate remedy which is available to the doctor to recover the bill. So then technically you cannot withhold the dead body. So dead body cannot be withheld against the pending bill. You have to release the dead body. This is a Prabha Manchanda case which defines all types of consent, and these types of consent, it was I will not go in the case details, it was an emergency case, and then this all consents came out. During the slide of consent, I will explain what does this means, implied express proxy, that I will explain during the slide of the consent. This is the case law which gave 1 crore Prashant Dharanka case law which versus Nizam Institute, where a young boy, and this I will not go into the detail of the case law, but what is related to the cross specialty practice. What does it mean, cross specialty practice? Here 2 specialties were involved: cardiothoracic surgeon and neurosurgeon. It says that one of the specialty cannot practice the specialty of the other. So this can be, and also we have one more case law which will come in our presentation of the against crosspathy. So as a general practitioners, we should, and there is a case law which speaks about the crosspathy. I will come to that after that. This is the case law where 1.8 crore compensation was paid. The only reason for this case law was, it is a case of ROP. ROP is probably general practitioner may not know, it is a retinopathy of prematurity. Here, the girl became blind during the neonatal care, but the only reason going against the doctor was there in the discharge card, it was not written follow for ROP, and therefore lack of documentation is was the reason to giving the decision in favor of patient. Probable scenarios in our practice during general practice related to sudden death, and probably they are the trigger factor for mob violence and litigation in this era. And this is a common scenario with general practitioners, and probably the diclofenac is the commonest injection which is used by general practitioners. If it would have been interactive, I would have asked you what injections you are using, why you are using, which injections. So there's a long list, but I have taken as a presumption, probably this is the injection which is used much more by the general practitioners as an injection diclofenac. On giving injection diclofenac develops giddiness, breathlessness, low pulse volume, etc. What it is. And interactive, I would have asked what it is. Probably you are maybe aware of this. This is known as anaphylaxis reaction, anaphylactic reaction to the drug. And I presume that everybody knows here how to treat it, but I will just go through the anaphylaxis treatment, because as a general practitioner, probably sometimes we are not aware how to go about it. I will go in the detail for the management of anaphylactic reaction, but the point is what I'm making is that mainstay of the treatment is adrenaline, and one should, if any reaction occurs at your office practice, at your OPD, which doesn't have any hospital setup or backup, then if something reaction occurs, you have to handle it. You have to do all the resuscitative measures, and after resuscitative measures, in spite of resuscitative measures, if patient dies, but the due care which has been taken is shown there, there is not a gross negligence. But you have not done the resuscitative measures, and then it becomes a gross negligence. Suppose this case happens in your OPD, in one OPD, and if we call police for the help, or the complainant lodges, the patient complains, the lodges complaint in that police station. On arrival of the police, they do the panchnama, they seize the original papers, and they see whether the resuscitative measures have been done or not. And if it's not done, it is a gross negligence. If it is done, it is not a gross negligence. So the conclusion is that each and every OPD should have oxygen cylinder, ambu bag, laryngoscope, emergency medicines, injections. What will the emergency kit? I will come in another few slides. At the same time, communication skill is very important. So each and every OPD should have the emergency medicines. Anaphylaxis is the most unwanted, unavoidable, unpredictable emergency. Every practitioner must know how to treat it. Its recognition is very important. Prompt treatment can save 80% of patients. The term anaphylaxis is a classical immediate hypersensitivity reaction, type 1 reactions. Details I will not go. Mediators being Ig, histamine. How to identify? This is the most important. How to identify? Rashes appear, skin. Respiratory system, we develop bronchospasm, so you have wheezing. Cardiac, bradycardia. Gastrointestinal, vomiting, abdominal cramps, and there's a giddiness, unconsciousness. So with this, you recognize what do you do? What is the immediate treatment? Primary treatment is make the patient lay flat with feet raised. Injection adrenaline should be given 0.5 cc IM and to be repeated every 10 to 15 minutes until improvement. This is the mainstay of the treatment. These first two steps are very important, adrenaline and make the patient lay flat. And these things, injection Avil can be given, hydrocort should be given, but these both have little place in immediate management, but definitely it helps in the whatever the late onset of action is useful to prevent the further deterioration. So these two has to be given, but mainstay is adrenaline, adrenaline, adrenaline. After primary treatment, and if there is an absence of adequate improvement, if BP is not coming up, volume replacement. Mind you, as a general practitioner, we tend to give D5, DNS. There's no role of D5, DNS in the volume replacement. The only IV fluid which should be used for the volume replacement is RL or NS, either of them. Aminophylline can be given, Terbital is not available, so oxygen should be given. Up to this step, one general practitioner can do. And afterward, if there is no improvement, this cannot be done by the general practitioner. We have to shift, we have to appropriately in appropriate ambulance with all the oxygen, you have to shift. Otherwise, you call the specialist at your place and just manage the things. But best thing is to shift the patient if anything happens. So contents of emergency kit for management of anaphylaxis at clinical setup are adrenaline should be there. A point of regarding adrenaline. Adrenaline has very short expiry and adrenaline should be always at the reach of your hand. When such thing happens, one gets panic, and in panicky situation, even ask the nurse to bring or the assistant to bring the injection adrenaline. In confusion, in chaos, sometimes wrong injection is brought, but then one should confirm and see the injection. So it should be at the reach of the practitioner hand. How to go about? I will just come in a minute. Injection Avil, hydrocort, aminophylline, terbutaline, ringer lactate. Ringer terbital is not available, so not to keep. Ringer lactate, Scalven, big bore 2023, not small orals. Disposable syringes, disposable needles, all should be there. What are the common drugs causing anaphylaxis? These drugs, what I have mentioned, because when I started my practice almost 30 years back, that time practice at periphery, I used to see the adult patient also, because at periphery there were not the consultants available. Probably I was the first consultant to practice at the periphery, being pediatrician. So these are the drugs which we are using. So we have to see the adult patient that time. So while I have all these 10 medicines, what I have written, I have seen all the reaction to these drugs, but none of them died. None of them died, and all of them came out with the prompt treatment. Penicillin nowadays we don't use. Polyvion is still used a lot by general practitioners. Lignocaine while doing CLW. Analgesic is outdated, should not be used. In those days we used to use 20, 30 years back. Interferon, which we are still using, but now it's also not used so much. Fortine, diclofenac sodium, ceftriaxone, and prostadine. Prostadine is the drug which is used during the MTP. Probably the general practitioners who are having nursing home and calling gynecological obstetrician at their place and doing MTP. Prostadine is one of the drug which can cause severe anaphylactic reaction. At my place, I have seen massive pulmonary edema occurring after giving prostadine. Povidone iodine ointment is an interesting story with that. One of the patient having the febrile seizure, when brought by the mother in panicky situation, mother was just came running away. But by the time the patient arrives at our table, the child becomes near normal. But the mother had a fall. She had an injury. We did the dressing, and after 10 minutes, she developed rash, urticaria, and lot of itching. And then we thought what was the reason for that. And when we Google search the thing, and povidone iodine ointment is known drug which can give rise to anaphylaxis. What is this ST, NST? NST means ST means skin test dose available. NST is a no skin test available. So in penicillin, in lignocaine, you can do the skin testing. Lignocaine is also used by dentists also. So skin testing is a must for that. Polyvion, this Interferon, this Fortine, diclofenac, ceftriaxone, they don't have any skin test. So these drugs to be given first, and just if you are giving these drugs, make them wait for at least half an hour, and then ask them to go home. Otherwise, within half an hour is a good time to see any reactions occurring to the drug. Other drugs, we have a lot of drugs are there: ampicillin, cephalosporin, general anesthetic drugs, local anesthetic drugs, then insulin, streptokinase. Vaccines are there. As a general practitioner, I don't know how much vaccines you use, but if you are using vaccines, vaccine can give also restore anaphylactic reaction. Aspirin and NSAIDs are the most they can give rise to reactions. If you are using vaccines, you should have the vaccination consent. Vaccination consent is important, and this is the taken from one of the textbook of medical legal issues by Dr. Satish Tiwari et al., second edition. So it states that this is the consent for vaccination, and generally general practitioners don't do vaccination. I will not go in the detail of this, but you can have this information, vaccination consent, and then give the vaccination. And preferably to have signatures of both parents, two witnesses. Doctor signatures are must, because as a Consumer Protection Act is a contract, and when contract between two parties are there, both signatures of both parties are essential on the consent form. Any invasive act or procedure requires a consent legally. So injection as well as vaccination, both are invasive act procedure, hence consent is mandatory. But all over India, whatever general practice followed is, we give injections, we take it as an implied consent. Patient coming to our OPD implies that he has given consent for the treatment, so we give the injection. It's all good when nothing happens, but sometimes if it's such issue goes to the court of law, and probably we have to take the injection consent also. In US, UK, if you Google search the things, they have the consent form for the injections. Now, practical thing I can tell you, if you want, you can just have a form filled and keep for that the regular patient coming to with you, and that can be utilized if anything goes wrong after giving injection, any anaphylactic reaction for as a consent. Some of the case law: son bitten by cat, ARV. This is the ARV which was long before, when we used to give on the abdomen. There's subcutaneous ARV 14 days. It caused neuroparalytic complication, died, but no negligence. Why? Because this ARV was known to give the rise to complication, and therefore standard textbook says known complication, so it is no negligence in that. This is the another case law where 14 composed anaphortin and norepinephrine was given, right arm, causing severe pain in fingers and subsequent gangrene, and then fingers have to be amputated. The doctor which was there, it was Keval Krishna, he was registered Ayurvedic practitioner, was not qualified to administer allopathic drugs, so compensation was given. I will come to this issue of other pathies using allopathic drugs later on. So now that things are changed, so there are some guidelines for which by allopathic drugs can be used by the other pathies too. This is another case law where doctor did not do the penicillin test dose, also did not keep the emergency drugs ready for the treating anaphylaxis of penicillin, and failed to treat complication. Patient died. Doctor was held negligent for not treating the complication. In short, injections and drugs. As a general practitioner, what I feel, we should be familiar with few drugs. If you just analyze the things, you will realize there are hardly 10 to 12 drugs which are required for the managing the general practice. And if we are familiar with those drugs, if we know the reactions to those drugs, we will be comfortable, the life will be easier. So we should be always familiar with few drugs, but properly we should know. We should know what are the adverse reaction. We should know if reaction occurs, what is the standard protocol to be followed. And not following standard protocol, but after doing all the things, it should be properly documented, because documentation is the only thing which will help in the court of the law. That is the only evidence which will help in the court of the law. This is our ampoule of adrenaline a day gives worries of anaphylaxis. I always tell you can one as if you are using lot of injection, because many general practitioners do use injection in general practice, but the day will come when general practitioners will also the injection use will be on the decline. And but if you are using lot of injection, it's better to keep one adrenaline syringe filled for a day, which is at the reach of a hand. If something happens, you can give immediately the adrenaline IM half cc, which is very important. And what do you, at the most, what will happen at the end of the day, that syringe and that adrenaline will go waste. It hardly cost. Adrenaline just cost, first it was very cheap, but now it costs around 250, 2 rupees 50 paisa to 5 rupees, and syringe. So 10 rupees will go waste, but then it will be very useful if something this reaction occurs. It is handy at our hand. The other scenario is that arrival of an emergency patient in gasping stage or sudden death in hospital. If those general practitioners are having nursing homes, and if their patients are hospitalized and sudden death occurs, this is the problem where the things are. What one has to do if emergency patient comes, whether he will refuse or refer. Emergency patient, as per Paramanand Katra case law, cannot be refused. So we have to see with whatever ability, capacity, whatever you have to see the patient, manage, and then shift the patient appropriately in appropriate ambulance with appropriate person, with appropriate measures, with appropriate medicines and the things. And then these are things you have to inform police. Document is very important. Insist on PM and no DC. So emergency patient coming, you are trying your level best. As because of the Paramanand Katra case law, you cannot refuse emergency. You are handling the emergency with whatever the ability, capacity you're having, but the patient dies. And if dies, then you cannot give the death certificate because you don't know the cause of the death. So informing police is the best option. And already I have stated this case law where we don't have any right to choose patient emergency state. We have to see the patient. How to inform relatives, complete all the documents, check for the various instruments, call, ask to stay some of the colleagues, preferably the team leader, junior colleagues should be also be briefed earlier. Call all responsible relative present, especially decision makers. Same message by all the concerned do stop. This applies to the general practitioners who are having home, having hospitalized patient, calling the consultants to their nursing home. This applies to them only, not for the routine OPD or clinics. What is the next? Inform police, letterhead with details, patient name and age, time of arrival, admission date or time of death, get acknowledgement, do not mention cause of death. Ask in charge to come, take charge of body, request for PM, and then to ascertain the cause of death. This is another scenario. This again applies to nursing homes or those nursing homes having OT, or the general practitioners who are having nursing home and calling obstetrician, gynecologist to do this work. A patient is taken for MTP and sudden death occurs on the table. So what you will do? What one has to do? Table deaths. These are known as the table deaths. Table deaths always inform police. Documentation is very important. Its completion. What does that mean? Whenever you've taken the patient inside, what the chronology and the sequence of the event, what we have done, what the treatment was given, what the procedure was started. is to be documented properly. And when the things went wrong, what resuscitative measures were given, and to be documented chronology, the sequence of the events. Document is very important. Insist on PM, no death certificate, but after informing police and after police arrival, only declare the death. You don't declare death before the police arrival to the relatives. It's always best to declare the death after the police arrival. The reasons for table deaths may be many. Reactions to the anesthetic agents, anaphylactic reactions, maybe operative complications, maybe the oxygens, and there are a lot of reasons for the table deaths. What one has to do when the patient's brought dead at the clinic or hospital? This is a very important issue. Whenever at a clinic, hospital dead patients brought, we have the tendency as general practice, we refer to the government hospital or the other hospital for the patient. But mind you, dead patient cannot be referred. Dead patient cannot be referred. So no DC, do not refer, inform police. And if this is a known patient, if the patient is following for so many days with you, and he's on treatment with you, if you can think of giving DC, but after careful analysis of the situation, what should be able, one bottom line is there. If you are giving death certificate, whatever cause you are writing, and if by chance something happens in future, and if court of law summons you, you should be able to justify the cause of death. If you are able to justify the cause of death, you can give the DC. Can a dead body held against the pending bill payment? Already is discussed. We will just skip that. Hiranandani Hospital case. To summarize in one line, cannot withhold the dead body against the pending bill in view of alternate remedy. In spite of good management, suppose reaction occurred at a place and you have done all the resuscitative measures, everything has been done, but still there occurs a death. What next? A scenario of absolute panicky situation, possibility of mob violence. What to do? A scene of utter confusion. One has to really keep the nerves and be calm. Call upon self or ask assistant to call your colleagues, at least 2 to 3. But which colleagues? The colleagues whom when you call, they should come immediately. नहीं तो ऐसा होगा कि बोलेंगे नहीं हमें पेशेंट आ रहा हूं मैं ओपीडी कर रहा हूं, तो ऐसे कलीग का कुछ मतलब नहीं है. There are colleagues who should run for you. Hence, always keep list of phone numbers of such colleagues with the assistant. And so he should phone and immediately call the police. In what are the options available in case of mishap? Any mishap occurring at your place, what are the options? What one can go for the options which are available for the in the case of mishap? Inform police, then call your colleague, call upon influencing persons, politicians, so-called social workers, and finally, these are the 4 options which are available to you. Mere presence of calling colleague dilutes the situation. Calling police always helps to control the mob violence. This is the basic things which one should remember. Inform police is always the best option. But before informing, documentation, clinical notes must be done. And if OPD practice you are having, clinic practice you are having, so you don't have indoor papers. So what you do, on OPD paper only, you have to write all the documentation properly. Everything to be what injection was given, what was the mode, what was the sequence of event, what research measures were done. Preserve all the used empty, half empty vials, ampules, syringes, needles as it is. Don't clear off the things. Why? Because when police comes, they do the panchanama, they look all these things, and if these are there, that shows you have taken due care of doing the resuscitation. But in spite of the due care, standard care, you have given the resuscitative measures there, but still the patient died. That is not a gross negligence. Oxygen cylinder, mask, nasal prong, keep as it is. Don't clear off. Let it be at the place like that only. How to inform police? Can call by phone, but always to inform in written form, acknowledgement. But they, in such a situation there, we don't have the time for the written form, but at least call on telephone, or you dial up 100 100, that gets recorded and immediately action is taken with that. Once police comes, it takes over and does its duties, does the panchanama. Police takes the dead body in their custody, orders PMN no death certificate to be issued. In fact, we are only afraid of police. Reason, probably don't have any rapport between us and police. We do not follow proper protocol. We are weak in maintaining records and documentation. One suggestion I can put, you can always have a courtesy meeting with the police station. When you are having, if local association are having, whenever there is a change in the office bearers, you can just go and meet as a courtesy. What we do, whenever we have problem, we go to the police station. Otherwise, we don't go. And they also will feel good if you are going as a courtesy visit. not for any reason, not for any solution. And then you can introduce, this is our new president, this is our new secretary, this is our new treasurer for this year, and just have a cut. This improves the rapport between the police and us. And mind you, still I feel police are really good. Still doctors are respected, but it's also the way you respond to them. Call your colleagues always, no doubt. Helps in calming relatives, mob, helps in police procedure. The most important is the moral support. Call upon influencing persons and politicians, so-called social work. It's a very dicey situation. One has to take their own judgment. Calling a politician is always like a double sword with a double edge. But mind you, I have a lot of experience of these things happening around our area. But definitely, there are very good politicians also, and those who really, when came at a situation, really calmed down the mob, and every what we expected, nothing happened. But then also another politician can create problems. So the exceptions are always there, but at a large, if we have good relations, we have good rapport, they do help us. Financial settlement, this is the doctor wants to get rid of the problem as soon as possible, hence most of them resort to this. But this trend is an invitation for the all the time. BVS, Supreme Court of India ruling is there. Do not give any cash or check to the patient in an out-of-court settlement without proper written agreement. That term is known as consent terms agreement. It is an agreement which is made by the advocates of the both the parties in front of the judge, and the is arrived, and then this settlement is done. So this settlement is known as consent terms. So it should be done legally. Forums which are available for the complainant. Something happens where they can go as a complainant. The police station. Why I'm mentioning these things is very essential to know us. If police, they go for police station, do FIR, there is no time to make papers proper. Hence, one should learn the proper documentation. So we should be able to write properly. Criminal courts, they can go, but then we have time because we receive notice, we receive summons, we have the time to reply. We can have a good criminal lawyer, we can have good medical legal backup for that, because criminal lawyer, though good, they struggle with the medical terminologies. So medical legal backup is very important for them. Consumer forum is the most common forum where the patient goes if any problem is there. Now the Lok Sabha has passed the Consumer Protection Bill 2018 on 20th of the December, and it will replace the Consumer Protection Act 1986. The difference which has been made are many few, but the most important is the pecuniary jurisdiction of the various commissions. District commission, they have increased from 20 lakhs to 1 crore, and state they have made to 1 to 10 crore. National commission is more than 10 crore. What that implies, what that means, if the patient, if the complainant feels the compensation should be of the range of 5 crores, then he has to go to the state commission. And if he feels the compensation should be more than 10 crore, he has to go to national commission. And if he feels compensation below 1 crore, then he has to go to the district commission. Of course, after going to and lodging a complaint, that commission decides whether it is right for that compensation or not. Otherwise, they will refer to the down commission. So, but because of this increase in the compensation pecuniary jurisdiction, probably the cases will be more, litigation will be more. This I will not go in detail, this will forget. For other forums are medical councils, National Human Rights Commission, civil court, but civil courts is very less likely because in civil courts you have to pay the deposit. Now, Code of Medical Ethics, there are various codes. All these codes are there. There are codes of Hippocrates Oath, 1948 Geneva Convention Declaration, 1983 International Code, MCI Code, MMC Code, Dentist Code of Ethics, Ayurveda, Unani, Homeopathy. All have codes. All codes are there. What does this course contain? They contains many do's and don'ts. And one of the chapter which states this is regarding medical records. So how many years you should keep the medical records? Ideally, it should be, MCI suggests 3 years. But in a complicated cases, where the complication occurred, where the mishap occurs, as a nursing home, you should keep at least probably their lifelong. And it says somewhere medical legal cases for 30 years. But complicated cases, this should be kept lifelong, preservation of the papers for the lifelong. And if these records are asked by the patient, you can refuse for 72 hours, but after 72 hours, you have to give the records. As far as this destroying of the records goes, if one wants to destroy the record, you have to put the notice in the 2 local newspaper of 2 different languages, and mentioning that these records are going to be destroyed. Anybody requires can contact within the 15 days, and after 15 days one can destroy the records. Now, generally, all general practitioners, they don't have nursing home this, they have clinical OPD base. So whether to preserve OPD papers or not. And one of the case law states that OPD papers should be preserved. Now, there is very hectic thing, practically it is very difficult to implement. So then you can have the OPD paper which has self-carbon paper. So when you write, it gets carbon, and that paper you can keep. But then again, it is practical, sometimes it's very difficult. So the other thing which can be done as a general practitioner, we should write proper way of the prescription, because that is the only ground on which one can go to any court of law. If that document is written properly by us, which is written thoughtfully, probably nothing will happen. That will save you. You should be always careful of these 5 P's. Now in this today's era, it is said that each and every patient is potent litigant. But then it all depends. But these 5 people we should be very careful by handling, and on our OPD, politicians, press, professors, police, and prosecutors. Prosecutors, I mean advocates. These people are little difficult to handle, but then if it all depends on you, how you should not hurt their egoism. Let their problem get solved, and just let them not wait too much in your queue for the OPD. Just clear of them. You should be careful with them. Some things which one should know as a medical practitioners. This is an important case law of Martin D'Souza case law, which states that if any mishap occurs, any negligence occurs, they cannot arrest doctors, not to arrest doctors. But at the same time, if any mishap or negligence happen, it has to be referred to the committee of doctors. And that committee of doctors decide whether there is a prima facie of the negligence or not. If not, then the case gets closed. If there is there, the case proceeds with that. So one of the important thing is that in committee of doctors is always whatever the doctor is practicing, that doctor, that Pati is always in that committee and who decides the thing, because he is aware of the things available. So what is this Martin D'Souza case states? Negligence, which is very important definition. One should know. This is a very complicated definition, but I will read for you. Negligence is a breach of duty caused by the omission to do something which a reasonable man, guided by those considerations which ordinarily regulate the conduct of human affairs, would do, or doing something which a prudent and reasonable man would not do. Probably this looks very complicated definition, and I will just make it very simplified. This definition includes 2 things: act of omission and act of commission. Done by whom? An average standard skilled doctor, standard skilled medical practitioners, average reasonable medical practitioner. While treating, if you don't do an act which was to be done for the treatment, is known as an act of omission. And the act which you should have not done while giving the treatment, if that is done, that is known as an act of commission. So these are the 2 acts which are omission, commission, which comes in negligence. There are 4 constituents of negligence: duty to exercise due care, breach of the said duty, damage due to breach of duty, and damage should be an immediate cause and not to remote one. To explain better, this is the whenever we do treatment, there is a duty or the duty towards the patient. And if while doing that duty, if there's a deficiency in duty, and the deficiency is directly resulting in damages, which may be physical, mental, financial, if these 4 criteria are met, then it is known as negligence. This IPC 304A, Indian Penal Code 304A section, everyone should know. It is causing death by negligence. Whoever causes a death of any person by doing any rash or negligent act, the punishment is imprisonment up to 2 years of fine or both. The important point of IPC 304A, because this is the section which is applied in most of the medical negligence cases, this is a section which is applied. The most important point of this section is it is a bailable. What is bailable? The offenses are 2 types: bailable, non-bailable. Bailable offense is the offense where you are given bail at the immediately. The arrest is only paper. The bail is given at the police station. So there is no arrest in that. The arrest is on the papers. What is non-bailable offense? Non-bailable offense is the offense where bail cannot be given immediately. After the arrest, police has to be produce the accused within 24 hours to the court of law, to the judicial magistrate first class, and then it is at the discretion of the judge, at the discretion of the magistrate to give bail or not to give the bail. That is known as unbailable offense. So for luckily for us, it is a bailable offense, so we get the bail immediately. But problem issue is that most of the police stations who are not aware apply 304. 304 is the same causing death, but then 304 is unbailable. This offense is cognizable, non-compoundable. Few more case laws, Jacob Matthew case law, you may be knowing. Burden of proof is totally on complainant. Complainant have to provide of this. The fact that a defendant charged with negligence acted according to general and approved practice enough to clear up the charge. Treatment protocol is followed, then no problem. Practitioner must bring to a task a reasonable degree of skill and knowledge and must exercise a reasonable degree of care. Standard of care should be given. And normal standard of care, every medical practitioner owe to its patient the duty of exercising skill and care of the competent practitioner. Sorry. So every medical practitioner owes to his patient the duty of exercising skill and care of the competent practitioners. This is another one of the case, Suresh Gupta versus Government of Delhi case, which states that every careless act of medical man cannot be termed as criminal. It can be termed criminal only when there is a gross negligence. And where a patient death results merely from error or judgment or an accident, no criminal liability should be attached to it. So this is gross negligence there then only. This is the case law which says that you should have an expert medical opinion to prove the things. These are the few judgments from the commissions which will be useful. I will just go through few of them, which is very important for this. This one is that prescribing, advising, or giving opinion without physically examining the patient, except in emergencies, is negligence. Then disregard procedural formalities and focus only on treatment of the patient in emergencies. Then this one, another is from Madhya Pradesh Consumer Commission, not recording time of collecting sample and performing actual test in investigation report should be considered as a negligence. Then do not give any cash or check to the patient in an out-of-court settlement without proper written agreement. This already I have told you. And courts can grant compensation even if no real harm is caused to the patient. The negligence is merely technical. In investigation like HIV/AIDS test, failure to state that the reports are not final and require further confirmation negligence, and only relying totally on clinical judgment and not advising investigation at the appropriate time when indicated is a negligence. And the most important, do not state the chances of success or failure in percentage to the patient. Instead, use terms like fair, normal, or good. Now some of the documents are there. Now see, these documents are very essential of the OPD practice as well as indoor practice. These documents, will be including all of them, applicable to the OPD practice, applicable to the nursing home, applicable to the nursing home having OTs. So this is the OPD. I will not go in the detail of this, just I am showing the formats. This you can get from the net also, as well as I will give one address also. You can get otherwise in your states, because probably this is attended by all the attendees from all over India. So in all states, there are some centers where we get this format. OPD register, this is a format. This is another one type of OPD case register, which is to be kept at the receptionist. This is under treatment and fitness certificate. It should go like this. I will not go in details. Injury and disability certificate. Then this is the IPD register. If you are having IPD, this is in another format of the inpatient register. Then this is the death certificate. As a general practitioner, we should always know how to do the fill this cause of death certificate. So this is the form 4A, which is for the non-institutional deaths, and that is the generally which is used for by the general practitioner. So this one has to be this is the format of the day. I will not go in details, and these are the details how one should fill the death certificates. This is a sample format of the discharge card. This is another one from another discharge card. This is the format for the discharge against medical advice, and this is released by patient, released by relative of patient refusal of treatment. Then that is refusal of treatment. If one refuses treatment, then one has to take that. This is known as, also known as a negative consent. Then MLC, medical legal case registration. This is a intimation of death in medical legal case. This has to this is how to be intimated to the police station. And then this is a medical legal register. One if has to keep operation, if you are having OT in a nursing home, operation theater register. This is the delivery registers. If you are conducting deliveries in a nursing home or the institution, this is the MTP register. This is sterilized and ICD register format, autoclave register. These are all the formats which I have stated. This everything will you get in the wherever the ideas I will just let you know. Prescription format, use of capital letters. Always use capital letters as far as possible, and A4 or A5 size paper. What are the this MCA has issued? This is a I have prepared the prescription paper for my. It looks like this. So one has to prepare ideal format case paper. We will just go over the consent. What is consent? Implied consent. What is implied consent? Whenever the patient coming to our OPD, that is self for the treatment, that implies that he has given consent for the treatment, for whatever we are advice consultation, that there is none of the implied. In a simple language, implied is a verbal consent. What is express consent? Express consent is a written consent. Whatever we take in return, that is known as written consent, that is express. What is proxy consent? Proxy consent is a consent where the consent is given by another person, like guardians of in case of children. Otherwise, the sometimes unconscious patient brought, so the whoever is accompanying person, he gives the consent, that is known as for the unconscious patient. For mentally incapable patients, the consent which is given by another is known as proxy. What is informed consent? What anything we have communicated to everything, and whatever documented, that is known as the informed consent. We should have proper format of consent. And informed valid consent. The consent is not legally valid if the consent is given by incompetent persons, like minor, mentally incapable, intoxicated person, obtained by fraud, or by coercion, by misrepresentation, by using undue influence. What is ideal consent? That is important to know. Ideal consent should be the language we patient understand, in writing, reasonably detailed, in simple language, duly signed by the parties, and should be very well timed. So consent is required whenever you are doing any procedures, even probably blood test. When if you are asking for doing HIV test, that also requires a consent. Any invasive procedure which is there, consent is required. Probably putting whatever the IV fluids, also putting injections, giving injections, vaccination, this all requires consent. And of course hospitalization requires a consent, which is indoor consent. So how the consent form looks like? These are consent when you are admitting the patient. These are consent. I will not go again in detail of this, where this all is available. You can just go through it. So this is to be filled. The important point of the if you are having nursing home, if you are in IPD patients, you are indoor patient, the consent form should be properly filled. Many times we just take the signature here, we take the signature here, and just we take the signature of the relative, and that's all. And after 10 or 5 days, 5 to 10 days, 1 week or 1 month, whenever the problem occurs, you don't know who has signed this, whose name, what is it. Always complete all the columns of the consent form. Just don't take signatures. Each and every detail, name, address, age, date, everything to be filled properly. Otherwise, something mishap occurs, and then you go keep on searching whose signature is there and who was there, and that becomes then issue in the court of law. This is the information to be provided by the patient prior to anesthesia. So these are the anesthetics questions which has to be filled, which has to be answered, and these are various. You can just, I will just go through it, and this has to be provided by the patient. I'm not advertising any institution. Probably this is the of Maharashtra. You may be having in other states also. Probably this you can Google for this, and this they make tailor-made stationery, and which is backed by the medical legal experts. Just few words regarding medical certification of death. If you are giving death certificate, you should know how to fill the death certificate. Very, very important. See, there are two types of form, F4 and F4A. 4 is institutional death. 4A is non-institutional. As a OPD practice, clinical practice, we have to fill F4A form, not F4 form. Use of letterhead. can be used, but preferably to use this format is a better. Again, we'll not go in the details. So, but then I will just show what is the important part of the medical certification, the cause of death. This is a very important part of the medical certificate, giving death certificate. These are three things which one should know. What is the cause of death? I will give you one or two examples. Cause of death, immediate cause, antecedent cause, underlying complaints. So three things, A, B, C. This is known as part one of the cause of death. And part two, these are the condition which is contributing to death, but they are not related to the disease or condition causing it. So that is the part two. Then this is very important, manner of death, natural accident, suicide, homicide, pending investigation. This is there in that. Then this I will just give. There back of this is all the details are there. I will not go in the detail, but two things I will tell you. Name of the disease should be written properly, full name. Also age should be written properly. And these are the all details which are there in that. This kind. What are do's and don'ts while giving death certificate? It should be clear, legible handwriting, no mistake about age, sex, and name. Cause, disease, condition directly causing death should be mentioned. Antecedent cause, already I have told you. And other significant contributing death. No cardiorespiratory. Cardiorespiratory arrest is not the cause of the death. It is the way of the death. So this should never be mentioned as a cause of the death. Death certificate is to be issued free of charge, not to be withheld for pending fees payment. Only a single copy of the death certificate to be issued. Always maintain a carbon copy. Carbon copy is very important. The death certificate should be issued by a registered medical practitioner who has been medical attendant of the deceased during life, has attended the patient within past 14 days prior to his death, and is satisfied as to the cause of the death. This I will just skip. In which cases you will not give death certificate? When treating doctor is not sure about the cause, death on arrival, intraoperative anesthesia death, injury played a part, burn, poisoning, medical legal case, possibility of someone to be blamed. So these are the things. Just will do 2 or 3 illustration how to fill the DC. See, always we have to, if you write manner of death accident, how did the injury occurs is very important. Accidental collision of rickshaw and truck. The victim was a rickshaw driver. It has to be mentioned that way. But now I will just go this. Importance of writing accurate sequence of the immediate cause, antecedent cause, or underlying cause. I will just read for this you. A 59 years old male was admitted to the hospital with shock with signs of septicemia along with gangrene of left foot. Patient had swelling of it, foot and fever since 3 days. He had history of COPD due to chronic bronchitis and had diabetes since 5 years. Patient had diagnosed case of carcinoma of pancreas, operated for same 5 years back. Patient died 2 days after admission due to septicemic shock. If it would have been an interactive session, I would have asked what will the come. So this has been filled, but this is not the immediate cause. This is not antecedent cause. This is not this cause. So this is the probably this is the incorrect cause of death. How to give the correct cause of death? I will just go over this. This is the correct cause of death which can be given, and this is the correct cause. So your immediate cause, you can read the history again. Immediate cause will be the septicemic shock. See, this is septicemic with signs of septicemia and died. So septicemic shock is a immediate cause. How did it happen? Because of gangrene of left foot. So gangrene of left foot is the antecedent cause. And this gangrene, this was there, gangrene was there, and the basic cause for this diabetes. So diabetes mellitus is the underlying condition. So diabetes mellitus is the underlying condition. This is the immediate cause. This is the antecedent cause, and this is the underlying condition. And the other which was there mentioned, carcinoma of pancreas and operated. This is a significant condition, but not related to disease. It is not related to the condition causing it. So COPD due to chronic bronchitis and carcinoma of pancreas appears in the part 2 of the death certificate. And then you have to write the durations also in that. So this is one. Another one, 34 years old, 1 minute. And see, and one of the manner of death. Manner of the death you have to write, it is a natural death. The another is that 34-year-old male, female met an accident while crossing the road and dashed by a car, had a crushed injury to thorax. Patient was admitted to the hospital in shock, showing profuse hemorrhage. Patient died half an hour after admission due to hemorrhage shock. Being a medical legal case, body sent for PM. Post-mortem findings were suggestive of multiple fractures and hemorrhage due to rupture of the internal organs of This is the whatever is shown here. It is a incorrect cause of death. Correct cause of death is like this. Immediate cause. What will the immediate cause? Showing profuse hemorrhage. So hemorrhage shock is the immediate cause. What made that hemorrhage shock? Crushed injury thorax. And what was the reason for that crushed injury thorax? The so underlying condition of victim was a pedestrian and dashed by a car. Any other significant condition there? There's no sign, so it will come nil. And what is the manner of their death? Manner of death was the accident. So this has to be circled. Natural accident, suicide, homicide, and pending investigation. One more illustration. 22 years old female admitted to the hospital in unconscious stage, had a history of vomiting. Patient was in shock, had systolic blood pressure. She had history of consumption of organophosphorus compound 6 hours back with intention of self-harm, showing pinpoint pupil fasciculation. After 2 hours, developed respiratory paralysis and pulmonary edema. Patient was resuscitated but died 4 hours after admission and body sent for PM. So how do you write cause of death for this? This has written, I will not go in detail because of time constraint. What is the correct cause of death? That I will tell you. Immediate cause will be respiratory paralysis and pulmonary edema. That is the immediate cause. And how it happened? The antecedent cause was poisoning by consumption of organophosphorus. And underlying condition, intentional self-poisoning by pesticide. So this is the underlying condition, this is the antecedent, and this is the immediate. And all the others, it is nil. So what is the manner of death in this? It will be suicide. So it has to be written this way. So this is the proper format of the consent you have to write. Any mishap or anticipated litigation, what one should do? You should always, if you feel that this probably some problem will occur, you should immediately discuss the issue with your seniors, research the literature, and what the literature for and against you, preserve the papers, appropriate documentation, and please don't change the ink, don't change the handwriting, use same brand of pen, otherwise it is known as fabrication of the papers. I feel so these are the 6 saviors which are very important. Anticipation is one of first foremost, and then communication, documentation, limitations, ethics, and introspection. These 6 things, if we master, probably these are known as 6 saviors in our practice, and the things in the life becomes easier. Anticipation is very important. While practicing in our OPD practice also, while treating patients also, we should be very careful. I will give 1 or 2 examples. Suppose patient come in evening time with a chest pain. This is the most often seen by the general practitioner case, by chest pain. तो पेशेंट बोलता है नहीं नहीं कुछ नहीं, डॉक्टर साहब ये तो खाली एसिडिटी की वजह से हुआ है मेरे को. And when we see this patient, if we feel that probably there may be cardiac cause, so while writing the case paper, you should write properly, and you should write a advice, instruction that to take the opinion of the physician, probably ECG also. So that saves you. This is known as anticipation. And most of the time it happens, they come in evening, they take the anti-acidity drugs, and then in the night they again have severe chest pain, and most often they suffer from the severe myocardial infarction. The another example which I can give is a pain in abdomen. Pain in abdomen, if there is tenderness, guarding, everything, you should let the patient decide whether to go to surgeon or not. But on paper, we should document the thing. Probably right iliac fossa tenderness is there. Probably thinking of appendicitis, probably refer to the surgeon. We should mention for the opinion of the surgeon. Whether patient goes on or not, that is his job. But our job is writing on the paper, documenting the things we have been advised to do the thing. Secondly, also about dengue. Primary dengue, nothing happens, 100% nothing happens. But secondary dengue is a case, you should be careful on the day 5 to day 9 of the secondary dengue, where the things can go complicated and can give rise to dengue hemorrhagic shock syndrome. So in this, if you know it is secondary dengue, this is known as anticipation. So you advise them properly. Probably you may require ICU admission in case of secondary dengue. And also, you should anticipate if mishap occurs, how to go about it. This is very important. Communication is very important. It is an art which can be verbal, expression, body language. In this era, technology, when all the information on the fingertips, if they ask something, you should reply them properly. And one of the important body language, what I feel, which is common in whenever any patient from other practitioners, we make our faces, अरे ये क्या दिया है, कैसा है, अरे ये मेडिसिन का जरूरत नहीं है, इसको रखो बाजू में, ऐसा. This body language makes that patient feels something wrong has been done by the previous doctor. We should not do that. There's no point in changing the brands. If you want to give paracetamol, continue with the pentacin, continue with the crocin. There's no point in changing the brand. It's just writing them. You can tell them, okay, this is a medicine which was probably the doctor thought this is right at that time. You keep this medicine. Symptomatic you should not change. I will change some antibiotics. I will change this medicine. You just keep this. I will prescribe the medicine instead of that. There's no point in changing the this same medicine with another brand. So that is known as body language. Handwriting of the doctor is very important. One should have a readable handwriting. Otherwise, if this handwriting is there, probably one might not know. And there's a one case law where instead of asthma medicine, receive diabetes medicine, which caused hypoglycemia, brain injury. Compensation is doctor 25%, chemist 75%. This is a case law of illegible prescription. Newer gadget, use of new gadget, of course, CCTV is a must. Probably I feel it should be with audio also. But mind you, with audio, you should also learn to talk properly. Otherwise, it will get recorded on that, and then this will be cause problem. Mobile audio recording, call recording is is valid in court of law, but then you have to not by hiding and doing the recording. It should be consent taken, and you can explain the seriousness and prognosis of the on the move, and when if recorded properly, it works. Signboard and visiting card. Always signboard, you should have proper your name, registration number, time you should mention. But mind you, time if you are mentioning, you mention less hours. You can practice for more hours. But if you're writing from 10 to 2, and by chance the patient comes at the 10 o'clock and you're not there, you have a habit of coming at 11 o'clock, then that also can create problem. You write 11 to 1 and come at 10 and practice for up to 4 hours. There's no problem. Time should be mentioned properly. And please don't write 24/7. If you write 24/7, then if any patient comes, you have to offer 25/7 services. If you're not offering, then is a gross negligence. You will be held responsible. So if you are giving 24/7 services, then only write. Otherwise, you don't write. And specialist, if you are any qualified in any field or anything, then only you write as a specialist. Otherwise, you don't write specialist. If you write specialist, then you have to practice accordingly. Documentation is very important. Evidence, it is the only evidence which will help you. Court of law totally relies on documentation. Good justified documentation. Being busy is not the reason for poor documentation, and one has to resort to an assistant if busy. Writing should be readable, capital letters, informed documentation. And one word I will use, this one is important: justified informed document. It should be well timed, everything should be written properly. We should be very careful with the OPD case paper, certificate issues, indoor papers. Justification is the important word. I will just OPD case paper, I will just go afterwards. Certificate issues, you should always issue certificate properly, and if you should not issue false certificate. If they have not taken any treatment with you, probably please avoid giving false certificate, because some things they do cause problem. If we don't know what are the things happening and they take certificate from them, and there are the cases where the doctors had to be behind the bar for giving the false certificates. Indoor papers is very important. If you're having nursing home, everything, indoor paper documentation is very important. What are the treatment orders written? It should corroborate with the treatment given by the nursing staff. The medicine, the drug, doses, everything should corroborate with them given by the nurse. Also, as well as findings. If you're writing blood pressure here 120/80, and but sister is writing 150/110, that shows gross difference in this. That will not do. That is known as that is a problem of the documentation. So it should always corroborate, and always whatever you write, it should be justified. Anything, reasoning should be there. For any treatment given, the reasoning should be there. OPD case paper is very important. First of all, as a general practitioner, we are habit of using the pads which are given free by the pharma companies, and just we put the stamp on that and just write the things. We don't mention name, we don't write the date, and we just give that prescription. That is will invite a trouble if anything happens. Please spend on our stationery. Make your own OPD case paper, proper case paper, your name, your degree, your registration number, your address, contact in emergency, that at least minimum these things should be there. The time is written is well and good, or if not it is okay, but this minimum things should be there. Name should of the patient should be written, age should be written, weight should be written, and also as well as the date should be. Important thing, in every OPD case paper you always should mention positive or negative history of drug allergies or other allergies. This is very important. You should always mention the positive. OPD case paper, you should follow some protocol. Complaints of on examination impression, you should always write. May not be decorative, may not be few lines. Example I give you. Patient coming fever, cough, cold. Write complaints of fever, cough, cold since 3 days. On examination, general condition, fair or better. Write these vitals. Vitals may be temperature, pulse, respiration, and also oxygen saturation nowadays, and blood pressure. Write this, and on examination finding, whatever you have examined, respiratory system, throat examination, abdomen, per abdomen, whatever you have done, you write the findings of that and write throat conditioning, impression, query, URI, upper respiratory infection, you can write, and then you just write the prescription afterwards. Problem is that this, if you write properly, it shows the thought process of your writing the prescription. Because day 3 of the fever, there may be a lot of differential diagnosis. Day 3 of fever may be viral, day 3 may be malaria, and after 4 days goes, it doesn't get better, it turn out to be typhoid, and so henceforth so many causes of that. But at that time, what you have examined, what are your findings, and the prescription following that corroborates with that thought process, that is not a negligence. Probably that may be enteric on 3rd day, but you have given by thinking this medicine which is as per your thought process, that is not a gross negligence. It may turn out to be enteric, there's no problem, but it should reflect your thought process. One more example I will give you. If you write cough, cold, fever, and if you write viral fever, impression you write viral fever, viral URI, and if you're writing antibodies are down, and if happens to be ceftriaxone, cotrimoxazole, and if that give rise to Stevens-Johnson syndrome, it is huge trouble. You are writing viral URI, then why you are writing antibiotics? And if you are writing antibodies, you have written ceftriaxone, and then it is causing severe Johnson syndrome. So these things one should be careful while writing the case paper. Indoor papers, if you're having in nursing homes, we have the habit of writing seen by and CT all. No CT all. Fresh date, fresh time, fresh order. Everything will be written freshly. And if you are calling any consultant to visit your nursing home and examine, and the consultants have the habit of telling, "Hey, bhai, wohi chalu rakh do, ye CT all kar do." No, senior, that consultant should write in his own handwriting the orders, because that shows that consultant attended the patient, and his handwriting corroborates his presence, and that is very important. Seniors also should write own handwriting if you are having 2 or 3 more consultants. Discharge summary should be always Xerox, checked by senior one, and probably I think so days are come to make everything computerized. But regarding computerization, I will tell you one thing. Computerization of all the stationery, it should be non-editing format. What it means? If it is in editing format, then that doesn't hold true in the court of law. Non-editing computerized data is valid in the court of law, because if it is editable, then it can cause tampering of the case paper. That is not fabrication of papers, which doesn't hold true in the court of law. Lack of documentation. See, you don't document the thing. This is a case law already I've stated. I will just will not go in detail. On the discharge card, there was no follow-up written for ROP. ROP is a retinopathy of the prematurity. So this compensation was given. This is a medical certificate. How you give the medical certificate? Introspection. At the end of the day, you should always audit yourself. If near and dear ones are there in their position, how will you go about it? Is one accumulating the heap of non-satisfier, critiques, etc. by one's practice format, staff behavior, huge billing? One should be introspect oneself. Limitation, also one should know one's limitation, practice accordingly. Not sure of diagnosis, do not mind in having second opinion. And we should always practice specialty wise, ability wise, and capacity wise. Ethics, we should not do unindicated things. Less likely, if we think our patients are in place, our near and dear ones are in the place of patient, probably this will never happen. 4 basic principles of medical ethics: autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence, justice. Thereby, you respect the patient's ability to take decision, do good, do no harm, and equality. These are some of the sections. These are available to all general citizens. I will not go in details of these sections IPC, but this can be used for our hospital purpose, where these things can be used for the sections in filing the FIR. But in today's era of consumer, violence seems inevitable, and we are always under surveillance of media, social worker, politician. Doctor is always a soft target, because though we say, however we claim we are united, we are hardly united. We are almost divided. We are not a vote bank. And same sequence we witness after every unfortunate incident. We do condemn, we call urgent meeting, we do burn, we work with black ribbon, we give the memorandum, we go do gathering at police station courts, but assurance from ministers, but still no concrete solution and no follow-up of that incidents. So in view of our anticipation, what are the practical hints we can use for the avoid the violence? Design of our workplace, you should always have an emergency exit, escape exit, life-saving exit between oneself and door. Many of us know but reluctant to make the change. Emergency room should be well equipped, emergency medicine should be there, emergency equipment should be there. Display of DPA board. You know what is DPA board? DPA board is DPA is a Doctor Protection Act in each clinical establishment at prominent places of our establishment. Doctor Protection Act is implemented uniformly in most of the states, almost all the states. And Maharashtra, it was implemented in 2010. One should know it and confirm the year since implemented in their states. And each one practicing in their state should have copies of their state Doctor Protection Act. That copy should be accessible in the smartphone. Even police stations sometimes not aware of this act. So we have to make them aware of the act if anything happens. So this is as per the Maharashtra display board. We have made this and we explained. What point I want to make is this you can display in your clinic or hospital, but the 4 sections are very important, which is common to all the Doctor Protection Act. And these 4 sections are very important. Section 3, any act causing damage or loss to the property of a hospital and any act of violence is prohibited. Offenders could be imprisonment up to 3 years and fine of 50,000. And offense would be cognizable, non-bailable. Already I said non-bailable, and tried by the Court of Judicial Magistrate of first class. And in addition to our punishment, the offender would be liable to pay compensation of twice the amount of damage or loss caused to the property of hospital. Hence, you are requested to maintain this. So these 4 sections are very important. CCTVs must. Use of smartphones can be used. List of emergency phone numbers should be with assistant, or something happens, they should call immediately. Insurance, of course, each and every doctor should have professional indemnity insurance. Regarding insurance, you should know which company to take. Proper, it should cover all the medical legal services, medical legal backup it should cover. And I feel at this present era, minimum one should have 1 crore of the professional indemnity. You should become member of local association. You should have rush team concept. Your colleague should run for you if anything happens. We should have rapport with the police station. We should have courtesy meeting. Probably we can think of having good criminal lawyer, but of course criminal lawyer always struggle with the medical terminologies, so you should have a excellent medical expert backup. Security, I will not go, it is an individual choice. Outsource, bouncers, and of course somebody says about license harm, but I'm not in favor of these things. And how much it is useful in rights, it is a question mark, but still something can be done. Restricted entry, then training of paramedic staff, mock drill, reception, emergency areas, if you're having all this nursing. In spite of preventive measures, in view of anticipation, one gets victimized of assault, mob violence, etc. Because as the news of mishap spreads in the area, the local population gets instigated to visit the site. These may include local goons, local politicians, and local dissatisfied old patients, and which just keep on waiting for the chance to come, and just they come to watch the fun. Mob lacks intelligent reasoning, and therefore even a call by one person, Maru Todu, can instigate the crowd and then start the vandalism. In such situation can go out of the hand. To trigger the alarm system for rush team, call your colleagues immediately, inform the police, presence of police, let them take over the situation. Involving politician, already said, calling a known is a double-edged sword. May spare you from particular situation, but will take advantage later. But I feel so still there are very good politicians who really help in our occasions. And if but problem is if they are from the side of miscreants, they will insist on cleaning the mess and destroying the evidence before photographs are taken. Take photographs of the damage done to the property for court and insurance. Do this before the police arrival as well as the local politician arrival. Medical checkup of all injured, send all the injured staff and doctors for medical checkup and first aid preferred to nearby government hospital. Make MLC. Register FIR. Mention the names of the miscreants if known. If not known, FIR can be made in the name of unknown. Always hand over a copy of CCTV footage so that police, if you are calling police coming, immediately submit that CCTV footage, because that CCTV footage will be valid because police seen that CCTV footage. If you give same CCTV footage after 2 or 3 days, that doesn't hold in court of law, because then you require a forensic lab opinion on that. There is no tampering of this CCTV footage. So it's always better to submit immediately to the police. This is the FIR of these are only the point why what I want to make is that whenever the FIR does, this is done under some acts, under some sections. So this act should come. Always Daughter Protection Act should come. And because it's an online, which is done in the police station, so this act comes on the clicking the mouse. So this act should come. This should be, we should be noting that. Same thing in the when the final charge sheet is filed, and again this act has to be coming there. Insurance company, immediately inform the insurance agent with photograph and copy of the FIR. Never compromise. Do not succumb to request and pressure by politicians or going to compromise. Police may want to delay immediate arrest of culprits because it can worsen the law and order situation. However, if police is delaying arrest even after the cremation, make a complaint to senior police officer, or one can make use of RTI, or we may have to go ahead with the writ petition. There is always fear of breaking news in next day's newspaper. Relax. People have very short memory. Many of them do not read. Do gets rectified. Do not approach any press reporters to give justifications. If someone approaches, answer their questions in a scientific manner, and you can resort to your colleagues for help. Face the problem, accept the challenge. Time is the best healer, but take proper medical legal guidance. Have faith in yourself. If you give results, your patient remains with you. Do not worry, everyone has their own practice, and survival for doctors is really not a big problem. How to face our colleagues? Each of us liable to come across such a problem at any moment. Hence, each one of us requires moral support of others. Hence, the importance of an association. Each one of us are in same boat. Hence, we have to learn from the mistakes of others rather than deriving pleasure from it. This is a case law from Poonam Verma versus Dr. Ashwin, where the issue of cross-pati came. Homeopath and giving these things died of ketoacidosis, drugs appropriate, curriculum parameter not entitled, and therefore the compensation was given. But now there are the bridge courses for the homeopaths. So the bridge courses offer the things properly. I will come to this. These are the clippings which I will skip. But then this is the act of the Maharashtra. Similar acts are in other states also. What it states, the registered medical practitioner, see this line, of the Indian medicine and holding the qualification mentioned in the part A, A1, B or D of the schedule, shall have privilege to practice the modern scientific medicine known as allopathic medicine to the extent of the training they received in that system, along with the system of medicine for which they are registered. And the registered medical practitioner can do which is entered as an additional qualification in the register. So they can do to the extent of training received. This is a notification which is Central Council of Indian Medicine, and this allows, I will not go in the detail of this, but this grants permission to qualified Ayurveda Unani doctors for practice in allopathy. Such documents, such GRs always should be kept by our general practitioners who are of the other pathis with them, because in any case happen, they can show these documents which will save them. And another one of the, I will not go in detail of this. So such documents which are issued by our council should be always kept with us as a reference copy. This one is MD Radiology in Ayurveda, is now equivalent to MD Radiology in Allopathy. So this is again issued by the Central Council of Indian Medicine. Such circulars, such notifications, such GRs should always be kept by the other pathis who are practicing, who are using allopathic drugs. Professional jousting has been defined as the unfortunate practice of one healthcare professional making critical derogatory comments about another provider. In short, it is known as loose comments passed by one of the colleague against the other colleague. This terminology is of US. They use this terminology of professional jousting. In our loose comments is the single most reason for litigation, almost 43% to 50%. And I already stated in this, criticism by own colleagues are the aggravating factors for the litigation, almost 43%. Telephonic consultation is a very dicey situation. Now in this COVID-19, they have allowed all telephone consultation, WhatsApp consultation, everything is there. But whatever, probably it may continue, and this is applicable to the Epidemic Act of, as for this epidemic only. It's a very dicey situation, as medicine not a perfect science, law is also not. There are no clear-cut guidelines. But once this National Consumer Commission states that prescribing, advising, or giving opinion without physically examining the patient, except emergency negligence. And secondly, duty of care also arises in telephonic consultation. So best option to avoid, but then if it is practically difficult, you can prescribe, or you can advise symptomatic medicines. But if you feel that no, patient has to be examined, please tell on the phone, you have to be examined, please come to the clinic. And then otherwise, if you cannot come, you just get it checked with a nearby doctor. That is very important. Concluding with the importance of the physical examination, don't give antibiotics on this phone, but symptomatic treatment can be given. Nowadays it is allowed. Why illegally? It's no problem these days in presence of this COVID-19 pandemic. But be smart, be careful, beware. This is of being advising on telephone, because this is a era of smartphone. Other side, if they are keeping recording, so you should talk properly. Otherwise, it goes on record, and one can come in the problem if that goes on recording. And this notice you can put in a this is Marathi. To summarize, proper documentation is recommended. Follow standard protocols. Manage the complications for standardized recommendation. Keep contents of emergency kit at hand. Oxygen cylinder, laryngoscope, ambu bag must in office practice. Also, in mishap, police information is the best option. Call colleague for help. Mishaps are the part and parcel of our practice, and let us accept it and face it. Swami Vivekananda has said many years back, this thing. This is in Marathi, but then I will read for you in English. I will translate that for English. No gadget has been developed which can predict 100% correct medical prognosis and can assure 100% medical recovery. But with experience, skill, logic, a doctor can try to find the means of treatment to avoid mishap, but with limitation. Each and every time it may not work or will be right. Therefore, the doctor should not be treated as God, as well at the same time should not to treat doctor as an accused. With that, I come to end of my presentations. Thanks for patient hearing. I will just go over my WhatsApp. What are the questions are there? I will just pick up that questions and try to answer as maximum I can the things. And I'm just going through the WhatsApp. Yes, Vismay, Shalini, there's no questions offered.
No, sir, no questions.
Hello, any questions are there?
No questions.
Okay, so probably there are no questions being given, and I'm not receiving one. But anyway, if any you have gone through this presentation, if any questions are there, you can convey these questions to the CIPLA team, and if they get with me, I will answer that questions. With that, I thank all of you. Lots of heartfelt thanks to the patient hearing for this presentation, and also I thank the digital team as well as CIPLA team for giving me the opportunity to present my views and thoughts and to share the thoughts. Thank you very much.